What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line. And of course, this is our weekly edition that goes with our Bubba's Daily Update. And what can you say? Markets exploded on Friday, and we had the NASDAQ looking like we would call that a potential blow-off spot, blow-off position. Looked to be a lot of fear and a lot of panic trying to chase down the NASDAQ after it exploded higher, and that obviously only relates to the earnings of Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, and a couple of others the night before. And I guess the first question I'd like to ask today would be, why do we allow these companies to intentionally underpromise and overdeliver only to create this euphoria around their stocks? Now, Cisco and Google have been guilty of it for years, and I think the others are now playing in. And I'm wondering, why can we go ahead and report something that we probably know, I'm not saying for sure because I don't know, but probably know is false, knowing that we're going to beat that number, knowing that we're going to beat it handily, and knowing that we're going to get a major market rally out of it. Again, I think this goes back to the entire game of manipulation that is played on a regular basis throughout, markets and throughout the Fed and throughout all of the things that we watch on a regular basis. And that's something we will address later. But again, we see this to become more common practice than just the over occasional exception. And I think that becomes an overall problem. I think you saw on Thursday, of course, Mario Draghi did his thing again and said, hey, we're going to do whatever it takes, and we're going to buy back some bonds, we're going to do this. In the meantime, nobody can understand what the heck he was talking about because, again, that's kind of the MO of the Fed and the central banks around the world, is to try to continue to keep everybody confused, not telling us exactly what they're doing, but trying to beat around an old bush. So when we look at the problems and we look at what's going on, I have to ask the question, if everything is so damn good, why do we need to continue to have these central banks intervening? It's a pretty simple question. It's not like it's a major brain teaser. I mean, again, they continue to want me to believe that everything is terrific, but yet they have to stay involved. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, of course, if you look at the debt across the globe, $63 trillion, not a very good position to be in, right? Now, most of that debt has been created by our friends, the clueless wonders of the central banking system and the Federal Reserve. I mean, you look at this overall program, you look at what they've done. All they have really accomplished is to create more debt. Our debt to GDP, we're well over 100% of debt to GDP. So how are we going to get out of the money? I know that everybody in Trump's staff and everybody says, hey, we get these tax cuts, we're going to get this kind of growth. And I go, BS. We're not getting that growth. Okay, growth does not grow on a magic tree. We don't have Jack and the Beanstalk to give us the magic beans to give us growth. Growth has to come from within, and that has to start with capital expenditures, which, other than Amazon, we're not seeing. Okay, so where is this magic going to come from? We want the trillions of dollars to be brought back from overseas. Okay, great, but again, if the companies don't put together jobs and they don't put people to work and they don't start manufacturing here, where is this magic potion of growth going to come from? I don't understand the gullibility of how we are trying to believe what we're saying, but yet we have the stock markets plowing to new highs again, at least in the S&P and the NASDAQ. And again, I'm not telling you the markets are going down tomorrow. I'm just telling you this. It's very simple. Okay, the markets are well overcooked. There is no issue there. We've got levels of earnings, of price to earnings ratios not seen since 1929. Okay, when Andrew Mellon said there's no need to worry because the high tide of prosperity will carry us through. Well, I guess we're at that same point. We're waiting for the high tide of prosperity to carry us. I don't quite get it all. Listening to these guys speak, I don't understand where they imagine this is going to come from when you're creating crappy jobs. It's the same story we talk about all the time. Magic is not part of the economy. It just doesn't magically appear. It's done through planning and building the proper thing. But yet we've managed to find debt at 140% to GDP. We've got a $63 trillion debt bubble around the globe. And who's going to pay back all that debt? Okay, where's it going to come from? Well, of course, we know it's going to come from the middle class if it ever gets paid back. But it's really a shame when you look at what we've done to what could be a great economy. And not that it's disastrous yet, but when you look at the action that has been taken, when you look at what our Fed has done, you can go back to Alan Greenspan and what he did. You can go back to Bernanke, what he did, or Yellen, what he did. And everybody loves it. Why? Because, of course, it keeps the stock market higher. But it's kind of a problem, and I find it problematic when you force every investor into one asset class and you take away any competitive assets. So we get the imaginary words of that the stock market's in good shape, so that everybody should be in good shape. And I say to you, okay, if that's the case, then why is the Fed, again, still involved? See, we're back to that same question. Of course, the Fed has no clue. All right, and of course, we may get a new Fed chair this week, which will probably be Powell. And of course, why are we getting Powell? Because he's going to be more dovish to interest rates. Not everybody believes the same story of free money for everybody. Not everybody is the Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake while we're cutting off their heads. This is, again, a dramatic problem when the cheap money is now making homes unaffordable for the average person. Again, we go back to the middle class, which is the real driver of the economy, but you continue to eliminate opportunities. You continue to take away the opportunity or the chance for these people to succeed. And what do you have? You've got the wealthy getting much wealthier. And again, I'm a big believer in the rich getting richer under times of despair because they help support the economy when it's needed. But I would like to see it being done not through phony, artificial Federal Reserve money. I'd like to be done by real growth money. That's the issue. All right. We've got a Fed that has no game plan. All right. They have no idea where they're going. They are worse than the Cleveland Browns of the NFL. All right. Because they have no idea. And this is the bigger problem when you decide that your leaders don't have a clue of what they're going to do next. All right. And of course, you've then got, you're going to bring in another Fed chair similar to the one that's there now. And of course, a lot of people would just like to keep Janet Yellen there now. And of course, that's not the average guy. Well, the average guy doesn't even know what the Fed does. The average guy thinks the Fed is part of a government agency, which is not. It's a private corporation. It's the cartel for the gangster banksters, as they say. All right, this is something that was built, in my opinion, this was built to destroy the middle class and grab all the money. Right? That's what I look at it as, is a way that they can drain my money by trying to create things where I have to pay more into them. But we're going to have this lower for longer type of environment, although there's a 92% chance that rates will rise in December. There's also what's going on in the fixed income markets where the bond traders, first of all, the fixed income markets are the biggest markets in the world by probably 10 times, okay? When you take all the bonds from out the world, you've got the biggest market where people like to go. And you can see that they have been forcing rates higher over the last 6 or 7 weeks anyways. So the Fed's going to raise the lending rate to the banks, and maybe the banks will start lending money. But if we go back to housing, okay, in relationship to the Fed, the housing market is not truly a free market anymore. It's based on what the interest rate is. It's, as you remember, Americans American middle class, we are a by the month society. In other words, how much is it going to cost me by the month? And as long as I know I'm working, I can pay this by the month, I'm going to go ahead and pay for it. So I'm going to stretch it out and spend every dime that I have by the month. So now, when you look at it from that perspective, affordable housing is no longer affordable. Most Americans cannot afford a house because first maybe they can't get a mortgage, the amount down. So again, we've created another problem. And these problems are not going to go away because we get tax cuts or because we get anything else. The only way these problems are going to go away is if we open up the banking system to providing liquidity to everybody. You know, this goes into the entire root of everything that we do. We don't have a system that continues to work for us. We have a system that more or less works against us, that puts together almost a salary for the middle class. I mean, for the rich. This is a problem that's going to exist as long as we continue to grow our debt. Debt is the problem in any big system, and this is not going to go away. Now again, how long can they let it go on for? I don't have any idea. All right, but eventually it comes to pass. Now, what you've done and what you've seen happen over the big bubble or the big rally over the last 10 years is you've seen the ruination of a middle class society. You've seen more people have to go for public aid. You've had to see more people go for other problems. You've got the lack of health care. You've got a lot of unrest. You bringing in all kinds of problems in this world. Why? Because the Fed is not smart enough to understand that rates need to be higher so that we can actually promote small business, which then promotes hiring, which then promotes CapEx spending, which then promotes a stronger economy. But of course, that would be too simple for them. It would not. It would eliminate the thousands of employees that work there that don't know what they're doing. But in the meantime, as I get wound up, it's time for me to take my blood pressure medicine. We're going to step out here for a break. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, and make sure you know I do the high school investing program, highschoolinvesting.com. Check it out. We've grown and we've now reached the pinnacle of where we can go without any outside capital, and so we're looking for some of you, if you'd like to go to Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading. If you'd like to make a donation to help because you like my content, it'd be great to have that. Again, we want to continue to push the high school program to the next level. We've got 300 high schools so far. We'd like to get to 30,000. Okay, that would be our ultimate goal. But right now, I fund it myself for the last 6 years. And of course, every once in a while, you start running low on cash and you look for help. So that's patreon.com/Bubba Trading. Check it out. In the meantime, don't forget to get the Bubba Show every single day at LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. And we're going to step out here for a break. And remember, Bubba's Daily Update, you can get those at BubbaTrading.com. All you do is sign in and they'll be emailed to you every day. We're step out here with Bubba's Bottom Line. Be right back after the break with more of Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line, and it's Bubba. Todd Bubba Horwitz. Got my RFD hat on for my guys in the farming community, and because I really respect that. And again, I think that's one of the bigger issues we're seeing as well. We've got a terrible setup for the farming community. They've got inability to really borrow any money. You know, I mean, they have to borrow lots, but again, they're always under the pressure and the thumb of those banks, and not because those banks are bad guys, but because unfortunately, the small community bank has to pay the same exorbitant fees for regulators as the big banks. And the big banks are always trying to pound the little banks. And by the time you get through with it, nobody can make any money there. And of course, they have to then, who they go to? They got to go to the farmer and say, hey, margin call, we got to liquidate. All right, really a problem. All right. But in the meantime, you've now got hedge funds buying into the beef market. I find this almost comical. But in the meantime, you've got hedge funds buying beef, and of course, we've seen beef flying higher here of recent, cattle and live cattle and hogs, and I think this is a problem. And of course, to me, that's a very good indication that maybe the tops are in. You know, these hedge funds have not exactly performed exactly, to very, very good. Green Light, one of the best, which is David Einhorn. They're only up 3% after a 6% quarter. So, not great. When the market's up 20% and you're up 3% and you're supposed to be outperforming the market, not a very good situation. I think that when you look at the grains, I think those are, to me, the grain markets, other than soybeans, are buys. You got to just start accumulating. I know most of you farmers, you already have it. You're not looking to accumulate, but I certainly wouldn't be selling it here. I'd be storing it. If I could, I'd have to check, the cost of storage, if I have to store it outside versus where I think it can go. But I think that's a bigger issue. But again, these are problems that have been created by, of course, the Federal Reserve. These are created, have been provided by courtesy of the government. These are problems are courtesy of, but we got no stones to make real hard changes that have to be done. and one of the biggest change that I wanted to see is, one of Trump's first promises was to work on term limits. Where is it? That was one of his first promises. We are never going to get farther as long as we have the same structure we have today. Because our congressmen, our senators have too many outside interests and no reason to make things better for you and me. They may come out on air every day and say, we're doing it for the American people. And you know what you can say? You can hit the BS buzzer, because that's all crap. If they were doing it for the American people, we would not be anywhere near the problem that we are. If the Senate and the Congress was truly working for the American people, we wouldn't have this debt structure. We wouldn't have this infighting. We wouldn't have this stupidity that goes on in Washington every single day. And of course, that brings me to who? Well, of course, who's always in the news? Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, you may have liked them, you may have voted for them, and that's no problem. I mean, listen, I voted for Bill Clinton once. I got no problem with that. But I think that you have to understand that this Russia probe, that this whole dossier that they put together against Donald Trump, okay, which is starting to backfire, the $145 million that they got out of it, the selling of 20% of our uranium. I mean, again, I don't know how we can continue to just keep ignoring the things that have happened. I don't understand how the media that can just slough over it like it was nothing. Because, again, first of all, we all know what uranium is used for, right? Those are only to make bombs, in case you didn't know. Now, the Clintons benefited $145 million. Why don't you look back in the wake of all the beatdowns that the Clintons have given individuals on their way to the so-called top, all right? Now, again, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, all right, as you look at what they have done, as you look at what's going on now, and if you now realize that they actually did try to create this Russia story from their side, if you go back and look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who had to resign at the convention, there's a problem here, all right? We've become too far left on one side and, of course, too far right on the other side. But this is pretty serious stuff, and I don't understand how it just simply gets swept under the carpet. We don't seem to understand the dangers that they created, okay, and the benefit that the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation got from all that, not to mention all the information that the others have been able to gain from all that. So I think this is an issue, and I know that President Trump said that he wasn't going to go after Hillary, but I think he might be forced to go after her now, and I know that Mueller supposedly has a major indictment coming down tomorrow, Monday. So we'll see what that all brings. But again, this is pretty deep. I guess it goes all the way back into the FBI and throughout a lot of the things that we were told, which were not necessarily true. I think that's a problem. So I think it's something to take a look at. We'll see how it plays out. Again, I'm not accusing, but again, I do know a bunch about Hillary Clinton and some of her escapades at the Board of Trade and the money that she took out of there and some of the other things that she's done. And of course, there's always been scandal around the Clintons. And of course, maybe this one finally catches up to them. I don't know. It's just interesting to see how it works out. But now Okay, you've got oil starting to move. You've got, again, what do we have? A little bit more manipulation. You know, Saudi Arabia has this new IPO they want to create for oil called the Aramco. Well, oil, you know, they've been trying to manipulate it for a year, and oil is down 10% since they started. But of course, Friday they had a big breakout to the upside, and of course, you know, there's talk about it again, and of course, there's always a chance of, you know, this little bit of a manipulation. You know, are the shale producers now holding back, knowing that Saudi's going to continue to try to push the metal? You know, I mean, the oil, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I do know that anytime it comes to money, everybody's got a price. All right, and of course, we continue to hear Jamie Dimon bash the Bitcoin. In the meantime, Bitcoin continues to explode. And the technology, which was built for them, is the blockchain, is becoming more and more in play everywhere you go. And I think it's a great system. And somebody had compared it to is blockchain and gold, like peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter and chocolate. And of course, it seems to me, I mean, we already know that China and Russia used the blockchain to transfer assets from gold to oil and back and forth. So it's something that does make sense, all right? And of course, the banks are worried about this because, again, if they can get any of this to work properly and it can become accepted, then of course, what do we have? We no longer have a need for a central banking system, which I think most of us who understand it would love it. Of course, we know the libertarians would have a party, but I think anybody who would understand what is going on here would have a much better feeling knowing that we weren't being manipulated through currency wars, through central bank intervention. For example, on Thursday when the euro currency fell about 2 cents, which is a gigantic move, by the way. It doesn't sound like much, but 2 cents is a huge amount to fall. And that was, we've talked about that on air for a while, that there was going to be something there that was going to happen. And of course, there it was for you. It did happen. And I think that's something that, of course, you need to understand that was them, their currency was too strong, which is why the dollar spiked up almost to 95. Now, I believe the dollar's going back to $1, all right, and I believe the euro's going significantly lower. But when you take a look at the correlation, and this is one thing that everyone always wants to talk about, it's a constant theme, the correlations. Well, how come the dollar has rallied and oil's rallied? That's a counterbalance. If oil goes up, the dollar should be going lower. Okay, a strong dollar, commodities are dollar denominated, the commodity should fall. They did not. Why is that? Why didn't gold collapse? You know, again, there's so many things, but I think that really everybody has finally figured out that the overall central bank garbage, okay, is no longer that important. Their manipulation is keeping us away from overreacting to their movements and their dollar movements and what they do. And God help us, right, with our new, with Powell probably as the new Fed chair. We'll see how it plays out, but we might hear about that this week. But we're going to step out here for our last break, come back with, of course, my opinion piece. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. And again, remember, highschoolinvesting.com. We're looking for some help. If you go to my link at Patreon, patreon.com/Bubba Trading, you can help make a little bit of donation, and we're going to do a special webinar for those of you who hit the mark that we're looking for. And of course, signed autographed books and everything else of my new book. And don't forget to catch the Bubba Show every day, 2 to 3 Eastern Time at libertytalk.fm. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for our final break and come back with my opinion piece. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. Todd Bubba Horwitz with you. And of course, what would a Bubba's Bottom Line be without Bubba's opinion? So I started the show off with this, and I was talking about the under-promising and over-delivering on earnings. And I'm really to a point where I think that's a crock. I don't understand how we continue to let these companies get away with under-promise, over-deliver when nothing's really happened. You know, again, we dropped the bar so low on earnings to begin with, and now they're beating it. But so what? all they have done, all we have managed to do is create a major buying frenzy into these stocks. I mean, you see Amazon up 120 bucks, up 10 or 12%, Google up 6%. Stocks are going up lumps like back in the internet bubble, okay? But all this has really created is the same position since 1987, all right? The bull-bear ratio right now is the same as it was in 1987. Now, again, I'm not calling for a market crash, but what I'm saying is I'm really sick and tired of companies trying to manipulate the tape through announcements that are legal announcements, they're earnings. But if I tell you I'm going to give you 1 and I give you 2, oh my God, you're so happy, and then you feel that you missed out. You know, we have that fear of missing out, so then you have all these people in the market chasing up these stocks, as you saw on Friday, which is why the NASDAQ went to up $129. I think that is wrong. I think it's immoral, and I believe that it's should be more considered as a manipulative tactic that forces these markets to go up because it helps them. It helps the stock company. It helps the shareholders. But it doesn't help you and me. It doesn't help the middle class. What it really does is it forces people to even put more money into a market that they really can't afford to be in to begin with. But the overall news, again, this is not new. All right, this has been going on since the beginning of time. Human emotions, right? I'm missing it. Oh my God, I need to get my money in there. Amazon's going crazy. Let me buy some Amazon, even if it's only 20 shares. What difference does it make? Got to buy it. Got to get in. Under promising and over delivering should be investigated. It should be watched over like anything else, because what you're really doing is you're creating a market of, we call it spoofing. That's exactly really what it is. And they've already outlawed it at the exchanges about, how you can show bids and offers. So now why is it okay that companies can spoof at how good they're doing when are they really doing that much better, or are they just doing better than they said they were going to do, so they beat expectations? I have a fundamental problem with that. To me, that's very shady. To me, that's pushing the envelope, and that is not being fair to the average person or the average investor. And all it really is doing is making the CEOs, Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. Listen, I'm not mad at that. Okay, God bless him. But all these guys, it's making the insiders all the money. But at the end, what's going to happen is we know that the markets are going to have a correction, and all the people that are pouring in here, at Amazon 1100 and all these other things, what's going to happen? They're going to crap out, as always. Again, this is not a new market. This time is not different. No matter what you hear from the pundits and the advisors on TV, this time is not different. This under-promising and over-delivering is BS. This under-promising and over-delivering should be looked into, and we need to get a better system when we report earnings so that investors get the real picture, because we don't have the advantage as investors to know the inside scoop that's going on before, or the inside buying, or whatever they're trying to manipulate. And that's what needs to be done. And that'll do it for today's Bubba's Bottom Line. This is Todd Bubba Horwitz. As always, I thank you for sharing time with me. Don't forget to get Bubba's Daily Update. You just go to bubbatrading.com. You can sign up to a link, and of course, we'll send it to you every day after the close. And listen to the Bubba Show every day. LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you back here next week, but we'll see you for the daily updates every day. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you later.